Hey, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the show. It's the Council on Future Conflict, episode 570. God damn, I can't believe every time I see that number, like just getting bigger and bigger. It's hard to believe that we've been here for so long. Yet here we are. We're talking the what did we do this week? We're talking to the gals from the What Did We Do This Week podcast, Molly and Danielle. So I'll introduce them here in a second. And then we're also talking domestic troubles heads. We're going to take the format a little differently than what we normally do. We're going to talk with the gals for the first hour. And then I think Danielle's got to take off. And then Molly's going to hang with us for the rest of the show. And what we'll do then is basically odds and ends, like 3 topics, kind of break it up for the last hour. And we'll just, it's Friday and we're focused on domestic stuff. And, we're all kind of, you're thinking about the end of the week and heading for the barn, that type of thing. So should be a good show. Anytime we get to kind of get out of the rut, I think is a good thing. So not that the rut there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying, it's always good to kind of do different stuff. So let me introduce our 2 guests. Molly, how are you? It's been too long. I think the last time you were on the show was literally it was either right before or right after. I think it was right after the Ukraine war started, and we were getting just kind of some ideas of how people that don't think about this stuff all the time like we do. How are you doing, Molly?
I've been doing great. I've just kind of gone back to doing my base routine of being a mom and a wife and taking care of kids. I'm a homeschool mom. I have 4 of them now that I'm teaching, and one is in high school. And then I've got 5th and 4th grade, and then I've got a 1st grader who so that's when we were on the Writers Fix Problems together, was right when my youngest daughter, not my youngest child, but my youngest daughter had already been born. So she was an infant at that time. And now she's in 1st grade.
That's awesome. Are you still writing?
I am.
Yeah.
I have a sequel to Babylon's Fallen Star out. It's Ash on the Veil of Canaan. I'm also working with the Mongol Moon people in Mark Sibley's universe, and I have a novella called Kill Game coming out soon.
Oh, that's awesome. That is, it's so cool to see people, the creative types. So for the little deep lore for the show, the original version of this show was not Council on Future Conflicts. It was Writers Fix Problems. And Molly was one of the 5 writers that we would host. Did we do a weekly show back then, Joe? Is that how it started off? I can't remember.
I think it was weekly. Yeah,
I think it was weekly. And we used to do, basically 5 writers get together and we just talk about just writing things. And we would have guests and whatnot. So
that was back famously when your daughter said, "People actually watch you."
Go figure, right? Anyway, so and then Danielle, it's also nice to meet you. I think, like I said, I think our paths have crossed, but you've changed names and you've changed. It's to protect the innocent. I'm sure.
Yes, entirely innocent. That's me.
So how are you? And what's if you want to introduce yourself to the chat a little bit?
Sure. My name is Danielle. I am the co-host of the What Did You Do This Week podcast with Molly. I live in Texas. I am a housewife and a mom, but I also work from home remotely. So that's why I'm able to be on our show today, because I can multitask with the best of them.
And tell me about your guys' podcast. I'm sure the chat will be interested in checking it out.
Okay. Well, Molly reached out to me earlier this year, right around the time that Elon and Doge started sending out requests to the federal government saying, "What did you do this week?" And all of the federal government kind of turned into toddlers and had giant tantrums about it. So Molly was like, we're not federal employees. We're not, Elon Musk, but we do things every single week. And sometimes it's, oh, I tried a new recipe, or, oh, my goat got loose and I had to chase it for 20 miles through the tumbleweeds. Not me, that would be Molly.
Yes.
And so, we kind of put together a podcast about what we did this week. And sometimes it's, boring and mundane. And then other times we interview really cool guests like Joe.
I was
We've
gonna say, I
also
heard you have a pretty good episode coming out today.
We do, yes. It's coming out today. I'm very excited. I just listened to the replay of that yesterday. It was good stuff. We've interviewed some friends that we have on Twitter. One of them is in the Border Patrol. So we love hearing about the border and what's going on down there and what is coming down the pipeline with, all of the removals and all of that fun stuff. And we interview fellow writers. We just like talking to our friends and helping them get their new book out there or whatever.
Or play Icky Chicken.
We do play Icky Chicken.
Or play Icky Chicken. So, Icky Chicken is kind of this. It started out as find something. It's kind of like a gross out game. Like, did you smell that? And try to figure out who can come up with the story to tell from the internet. And it has devolved into what is the grossest thing you've seen? What is the grossest thing that you've ever experienced? And so it's a great way to kind of break the ice with someone that you don't have a large rapport with, and to help get them to kind of open up and create kind of a bonding ceremony over
trauma,
disgusting things. Yeah, over nasty stuff. And it can get kind of wild.
Oh, well, I mean, it's any time to kind of bond over shared trauma, right? I mean, that's
exactly.
It's no, you didn't have it rough. We had it rough, that I always think it's funny how people will literally compete over who had it harder on or
who had the worst hardships.
It's especially in the Army. It's like, oh yeah, our deployment was really bad. No, that's nothing. You should hear about our deployment. Anyway, I thought that these guys, the chat would get a kick out of you guys because, while you don't like I said, focus on the security, international security kind of stuff the way we do, a lot of what you guys do is exactly what the chat needs to kind of inculcate in their regular everyday life in order to be, better prepared for a world in which uncertainty is the only guarantee, right? And one of the things, Molly, we were talking before the show started that I had you guys on that show to talk about hey, what's your view on the things that are happening in Europe, specifically with Ukraine, from a standpoint of a mom, right? Like a mom in America who is potentially not going to be impacted, but who knows how you could be impacted, right? Mm-hmm. And so the world has only gotten worse since then. Yep. Joe, let me ask you that. Let me get you to kind of kick us off here, Joe. If you had to give an assessment, say, of the last 3 years, right? What's changed, and how's that trend line going into the future?
Boy, that's kind of a weird thing. A lot of things have changed, and I think that the biggest thing is that we have to get rid of the "it never happens" syndrome. Right? Nothing ever happens because things are
normality bias.
Yeah, people are literally shooting at you now, and you need to understand that and factor that into your day. And I know that seems extreme, but it's the truth, right? If I have to go to town today, but I know there's, say, an ICE facility along my route, is there another way in which I can do that? Or I know there's a high-profile court case going on locally. Is there a way I can go to work or go about my day and avoid that area where there could potentially be some sort of conflict? So we have to learn to build these security concerns into our daily life. And be paying attention to it. An interesting phenomenon that I have pointed out a couple of times now in the last 2 weeks is the leftist narrative setting of all of the movies and TV shows coming out of Hollywood right now. They all feature some sort of a hack or attack on the electrical power grid. Mm-hmm. And you need to be aware of that, right? And be planning for that. especially in the days of the Metcalf incident and then the Moore County power outage being happened exactly the same way. So I think that's really the biggest thing. So the idea was to have a couple of quasi normies. I'm far from calling either of these ladies normal, but
Yeah.
folks that have more
Dangerous.
everyday concerns than average, who might not be as nerdy about all this as we are, and see how it's impacted their lives and what they're doing. So I think that's kind of
Yeah, I think that's good. Gals, I'll open it up to you. We had a pretty traumatic, essentially last month. One of the things that I've said here recently on the show is that you literally have gone from terrorist attacks every week to now multiple terrorist attacks each week. Where's your head at with all this? This is not far away in Ukraine. This is happening here in America.
I think for me, I live closer to a major city than Molly does. I'm not too far from Dallas proper. And honestly, I pretty much avoid anything in downtown Dallas or anything in the evening in the proximity to downtown Dallas because I know it's not safe and no amount of DPD officers strolling up and down is going to change that, unfortunately.
Right.
Some of that is because there's not enough of them. Some of that is because Dallas, despite being in Texas, is still very blue, the city itself, the county. And so you don't really know what type of policing you're going to get in a situation like that if something goes bad. And I hate to even say that because I'm all about supporting law enforcement, whether it's local or at the federal level. And so it's kind of scary when you have to put your protection in the hands of someone else, So that's my take on it, being closer to Dallas than, Molly is to, say Vegas or something.
Right, because even Vegas is hours away from me.
Yeah.
It's Reno is the closest, and that's about an hour and 45 minutes. But that doesn't mean that I don't have those kind of problems because there have been times I've been on Twitter. I hate calling it X. It's so dumb. On Twitter with Joe and texted him, "You'll never believe the military convoy that just went by full of like tanks and APVs on the back of trucks and things like that." So we see a lot of the gear up that happens around this area. We also see convoys of regular semi trucks that look like they may be for one particular brand or another, but they are just a little bit too close to each other, just a little bit. They stand out because they're together, and we see that roll through the desert all the time. I think for me, I'm here because I had these issues when we were living closer to the city and we were having the kids in the public schools and things like that, and have slowly kind of worked our way to have that distance between us and large groups of human creatures. And so it's a lot of extra work. It's very hard. When you think about like the times that you have to get up to deal with livestock and gardening, and you cannot take a day off. You do not get to sleep in. There are no breaks. It could be, you could have a great idea to just, I'm just going to get cozy with the kids on the couch, and the cow will get out. It's because big animals, they will go through every piece of fencing that you have. And then you have to worry about having your kids in and around livestock as opposed to in and around people.
Yeah.
And that's trade-off. You never ever get to feel really safe or secure unless you just have a lot of faith and trust in the people that you have built community with.
Well, but yeah, I guess that it's different though, right? Safety and security is different in the country than it is, say, in like some sort of idyllic suburb, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, because the closer you get to wilderness, nobody ever is truly safe in the wilderness. But then again, that's how you become more self-sufficient and self-aware.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and let's say that a strange vehicle in the neighborhood that nobody knows. Just like a windowless van with free candy written on the side. In the suburbs, you're so used to traffic coming up and down your streets, you're not going to notice it. We see a windowless van with free candy on the side of it. One of the dads has got it stopped at the end of the corner because we've already seen it and gossiped about it down the phone lines.
Yeah.
So there's almost like, I feel almost like there's more eyes on everything just because there's fewer people, and we have to all be aware of, we call each other, hey, I think there might be a fire going on in your backyard. Hey, I just found your dog. Hey, your son left the hose on. You want me to go turn that off before you run out the well, or are you guys flooding today? It's being more aware of and more in each other's business, but at the same time, you still have that kind of physical buffer of household to household.
But it's not about, I would imagine it's not about being nosy. It's more about like caring. You're like, hey, I care about them. So it's kind of like, I want to be there if they need help, or if you can't look at everything. So.
Oh, there are neighbors that I will let them stand out their well. I will watch happily with coffee in my hand. I do not give a fuck.
I just texted Molly's husband because I think she referred to him as livestock. So I just
poor Mike. Poor Mike. We love Mike.
Mike, darling.
Although, as a former Marine, he does qualify as livestock.
Yeah, right.
So let me ask you guys, because so both of you have I don't know if it's right to say you have a preparedness mindset. I mean, you have a rural mindset, it sounds like to me, Molly, but I mean, maybe preparedness is part of it too. What do you see as the biggest threat to you, Molly? Specifically, Molly, but Danielle, I think you're not completely outside a big city, but you're not in it either. How can the world reach out and grab you in ways that you're maybe not expecting? What are some of the things that you still worry about?
Well, okay, so one in particular, a lot of construction happens on roadways, and there's a lot of infrastructure that's going in, and a lot of these contracts are picked up by contractors who hold the business license, but they're not the ones doing the road work. They hire big camps of, basically it's a man camp, and they will buy a home, fill it with bunk beds, and it's literally whomever is indigent or just could work a shovel, and a lot of them seem to be visa holders. And we had this problem with the farms around here will hire a bunch of migrant workers, but they tend to keep them on a barracks and in areas that are away from town. These big construction companies, these large contractors, they do not give a shit if their equipment / man camp is suddenly in your neighborhood across from where your children play. They do not care. So there's that, because rural properties tend to be considered dirt cheap when you think of it from a suburban standpoint. We tend to have lower property values. It's easier to get a hold of land, and in places where it's already been kind of made residential, where we have that rural residential case. And then of course you've got people that just cut through town on their way to somewhere. So I think really just like drifters and man camps. It's the Wild West.
Well, Joe, this kind of gets to some of the things that we've talked about. You've talked about specifically in the community security classes, but we've talked about here. It's kind of like, you never know when the threat's going to come to you.
Yeah, and actually, that is the class we are kicking off here in just an hour and a half. But you have to be prepared to defend your community from whatever it is, whether it's the Mongol hordes or, as someone famously put, San Franciscan zombies. or whether it's Mother Nature and a hurricane or a tornado or wind event. You just have to have all kinds of plans for different things. But ironically, if you've planned well, the one plan works for everything, right? If I know how to defend my neighborhood when there's no power, that works no matter why there's no power. And that's sort of the way to go. And Juan Gringo points out that rural living is the best. Yeah, when we were talking about suburbs and that, I was chuckling because, like, I have to drive 2 hours to get to a 4-lane road. So that's okay. And I'm perfectly all right
I'm
with that.
still very suburban compared to what you're living. Yes.
Well, I was going to say, Joe, you've embraced this as much as anybody I know, as far as, get the fuck out of cities,
Well, opinions vary. Tactical wifedom is not as happy about this as I am. So she's like, oh my God, it takes an hour to get to Walmart. And I'm like, yes, Walmart is an hour away. So it's all a matter of perspective.
Yeah, I once told me by a very smart Army officer, you got to always remember, Scott, the enemy gets a vote. So, I mean, I'm not saying your wife is the enemy, but.
Yeah, well, I'm not. She certainly is not. But I would tell you her main complaint about rural living is the lack of her favorite chain restaurants. She can't go to an Olive Garden without going to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. So,
Aw, poor
and
thing.
I'm okay with that because Olive Garden is mid at best. So
mid at best.
That's true.
If that.
Yeah.
If that.
Y'all probably didn't hear that, but she just shouted from the next room, "I'm right here."
I heard that. I did hear that.
I swear I wasn't implying you're the enemy.
Sean got you spanked.
Yeah, it's Scott that's you're the enemy, not me.
Joe's going to be sleeping in those jail cells.
The Major Tom Halloween decoration right here.
That's awesome. I have to say.
I love that.
She was like,
That's
"You have
cute.
to go and get that." I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah, Molly, our podcast has snow globes. What does yours have?
Hamsters.
Oh, that's true. I guess you could eat hamsters if you really needed to.
You'd have to have a lot of them to make them.
Are you guys part of the hamster craze that's going on X right now?
No, actually, we predate that.
We were cooler than them.
We
the
were
original.
cool before, yeah. It was us before anyone else. The whole hamster thing is because, again, Danielle was sent a unsolicited duck pic, and so rather than just sitting there and freaking out about it, fine, you're going to bring this to me in DMs. I'm taking it to the TL, and we very roundly made fun of man for the lack of equipment that he was working with.
I believe Molly used the phrase "hung like a hamster."
Hamster peen. And so the hamsters became a way of us just mocking him.
Yeah.
Very cool.
See, I'm worried about what's going on in the chat here. You see your Arctic boy leaving messages for my wife in there. And ever since he came down here and met her, he has been moving mountains to try and get a job in the region. So I'm a little concerned. I am a little concerned.
Meta Guide here in the chat says the biggest threat to local small town communities is definitely people that are traveling through. Mm-hmm. I work here in the hotel industry, and it's definitely deal with some dangerous folks regularly. I think that's one of those kind of things that most people aren't traveling. So unless you live in one of these communities, this is not a problem that you're even noticing. I'm kind of glad you guys brought this up. And Danielle, let me swing to you. You're a little more probably centrally located than Molly and Joe. Well, and Watcher, you're out in the fucking middle of nowhere too. I mean, let's be honest. Mm-hmm. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying, you guys all kind of exemplify the get the hell out of big cities mentality, which I think is the wise way to go. But Danielle, you're a little closer to, you said Dallas. Is that where you said?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So definitely a different set of things. And Texas is going through some interesting problems. Specifically, I think that the rest of the country might soon find itself in. What are some of the things that are really specific to your area that are kind of on your mind when it comes to threats and the things that you worry about?
Well, I mean, just like the person who was just in the chat mentioned, in the hotel industry and people traveling through, we had a case, I think it was a week and a half ago in Dallas, where a hotel owner employee was beheaded by someone.
God.
There was a fight, 911 was called, and there's video of this poor man's head rolling through the parking lot, and the would-be killer just picks his head up and walks it to a dumpster, all calm, like it's a piece of trash. And, this was in Dallas. And, obviously it's not like close to me or where I live, but I'm not that far from, the center of Dallas proper.
Yeah.
And I can get to downtown in 20 minutes or less in a car. But,
Mhm.
other than avoiding Dallas as often as possible, it's the little things. It's when I go to the grocery store, I get out of my car and I make sure I look around before I start walking through the parking lot, even at 7 in the morning in the nice part of the suburbs. I'm always kind of keeping an eye on where am I going? And, oh, there's a really big, scary looking truck. I'm going to park away from that so I'm not so
Yeah.
close to it. And then it's, my kids go to public school, and it's always that fear of what's happening at school, not necessarily worrying as much about like a school shooting situation, but just we've all seen those brutal fights where one kid just starts getting attacked by 2 or 3 or 10
Yeah.
kids. And a lot of times those kids don't make it. And as a mother, that is one of my biggest fears, isn't necessarily some lunatic coming into the school. It's the kids already in the school with my kid.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, that's
And those
that's a
are
great.
things that I can't defend against. I mean, I could be at home armed to the teeth. My house could have, a moat full of alligators, and I can't defend my child against a fight when they attend public school. And I
Yeah.
know a lot of people have kids in public school, even private schools, you still run the same risk.
Well, I think I think that's really important, right? Is that it's like you have this kind of, I don't know, let's call it a community of security, right? Maybe like your neighbors, and like you do what you can to live in the best kind of place you can. You choose a school based on, well, we're not going to live on this side of town or this side of town
Hmm.
because so this school has got good ratings because so like having moved around a lot in the military, that's one of the things that we always do. We're always looking at these kind of like really subjective school ratings, like
Yeah.
what are the better schools? Well, better schools don't have problems, knock on
Yeah.
wood, right?
Yeah.
And so you do the best you can, but you never know when that one free radical weirdo kid
Hmm.
or bad kid is going to end up in the desk next to your kid. And
Exactly.
and my worry, I have two daughters, so my worry was always a bad influence, right? Like
Hmm.
maybe they don't attack them or do anything like that, but they're a bad influence on my kid. And the
Sure.
second thing I was always worried about is like literally conflict, right?
Yeah.
Now a little conflict is good for a kid, but
Sure. They learn from it.
not like something that's relentless that theoretically could put them in the hospital.
Yeah. I feel that
So
very much.
one of the
Joe.
other issues of rural life is this one's particular to just this spot. I live on what lawyers call an attractive nuisance, right? So there's this creepy old youth prison out in the woods that everyone knows is here.
Oh
And so
yeah.
on days like yesterday, I had people pulling through because they wanted to come and check it out. And we're like, hey, man, you saw those two gates you came through in all the private property signs? Well, yeah, but we didn't know people actually lived back here. Okay, but you knew it was private property. And it's
Yeah.
time for you to turn around and go the other way.
That disrespect for private property.
Right.
And a lot of that comes from a lot of youth culture now, how you're getting how you're launching your YouTube stream or your TikTok or your Instagram is urban exploration.
Hmm.
There's been such decay in some of the bigger urban areas that rather than going through and just stripping a place
Gentrifying.
or whatever, you're getting
Yeah.
film of it. And so everybody kind of wants to get onto that craze, the haunted cabin in the woods, the the scary youth prison out in the middle of nowhere. That's a lot of the draw, is how sharing and making community has moved from IRL, where your neighbors and the people that you go to school with, to this online community, which has completely changed the way the kids act and change and think, and the behaviors that they will put out into the world.
Yeah, this actually, I want to kind of transition a little bit here. We talked about kids in school. We talked about that. Joe, I want to kind of ask you, you're getting ready to do the community security class. What is the kind of role of kids in security and parents in like bringing security up to their kids and training their kids? I mean, God forbid you find your child finds themselves in a situation where they need that stuff. Thank God they know it. Back in my day, it was Boy Scouts, and we actually did real stuff that prepared you for a hard life in the Boy Scouts, whether it was backpacking or wilderness survival or all kinds of things like that. How when a parent takes a security mindset and starts to apply it practically to their life, how do they involve their children in that?
Well, the best intelligence network in the world is a group of kids playing on a street corner. So you start getting the kids started in that way, gathering information, make it a game. Then you find activities to do with the kids where they go out and learn these things. No, Josh Clark, the kid's position is not the crew served weapons. Stop. I don't know a single kid, boy or girl, under the age of 10 who doesn't like starting a fire, right? So right. You teach them how to start a fire. You teach them how to fish. You teach them how to just be self-reliant. And that's where you start. I always recommend that kids of no matter what age should take some sort of martial arts, not just because it gives them the ability to defend themselves, but it teaches them discipline, teaches them self-confidence, and enables them to, if things do get bad, at least be able to defend themselves a little bit. So I recommend, though, you don't start involving kids in the hard stuff, like potentially having to defend the home with a firearm until they're, at least in their teens, because you don't need to put those thoughts in their mind or have them be thinking about that, right?
But you give them the basic associated skills, like how to be safe with a firearm, how to use a firearm, but not in the tactics to actually like take this firearm, put it into action, and use it against the person who is.
Yeah, I think that, and I've always been this way with our kids, is that firearms shouldn't be a mystery to children. That's how accidents happen. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, I want to get out the gun and check it out. If you've had it out with them and let them help you clean it and take it apart, there's no mystery to it and there's no allure to it, right? It's just another tool you have around the house. So I wouldn't necessarily get them involved in combat shooting, but have them always around guns the whole time. Yeah.
Hey, real quick, before we go further down this rabbit hole, I wanted to address something from the chat. Where did it go? Oh, here we go. Mutually Assured says, should I have kids with today's problems? The answer is yes.
You absolutely
100% yes. So here's you want to find a way to focus your mind on home and hearth. It's have children. And trust me, they will be the best thing you ever did.
Also, let's point out why they used to have larger families. Why did they used to have larger families in the 17 and 1800s? Well, because there's a good chance that half your children would die before reaching adulthood. And so when people say, man, should we bring children into this world now? Absolutely. We need something to carry on. We need another generation of Western civilization. The biggest fallacy that we've been sold in the last 60 years is that you don't need to have children.
Yeah. Gals, I want to bring this.
If I may.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, I want to bring you.
Okay, so we're facing things that are novel and new to us in the form of security issues and global problems. And now we have a grid that is reliable, and we're worried that somebody will take that away. We have food logistics to where people are going starving in the street. You need to understand that that's a very modern, convenient thing to have. People have been having children through the Black Death. They've been having children through multiple world wars, through the Spanish influenza, through piracy, through the Roman Empire sacking towns, from
The American Revolution.
the American Revolution, the smallpox that was happening during the American Revolution,
Yeah.
times when rivers have frozen over or there's not enough food to feed a whole village. People have been having babies and raising them and facing the world come what may. And this new concept that why would I bring children into such a world? It's gaslighting to get you to not breed. The same way that they are gaslighting children who are vulnerable into cutting off their private parts. They're spaying and neutering the population. And by they, I don't mean like some big crafty cabal. It quite literally is people who are trying to slowly demo the population, control demolition of the population in order to maintain their control.
Yeah, you're 100% right. This is what the whole trans movement is, right? It's basically a mind virus that gets people to auto sterilize themselves, and thus, and then once you've done that, you are so depressed that then you're probably on SSRIs and other types of drugs for the rest of your life that you are easily controllable. So yeah, I tend to agree. Danielle, I mean, you're a mom too. What have you guys done? Especially, like I said, your environment's a little different than Molly's. You guys have an urban component. How do you and your husband kind of address the kind of the world of threat without being too scary about it? Because
well, I think going back a little bit first to the question of, with all the problems in the world today, should you have children? Yes. Part of that is because when you are a parent and you have a child, even with the worst, scariest, hardest problems, you have a reason, a living, breathing, flesh and blood reason to conquer those problems, to push through those problems, to find a solution to those problems. Not for the whole world, for you, for your child, for your family, right? Every family is different. Every family's problems are unique. They're not one size fits all. So I think when you have a child or multiple children, whatever, your ability to push through a problem and confront that problem and find a true solution for it becomes better and stronger because there's an actual life at stake. And I know that sounds really scary and terrifying, but holding that baby in your arms and knowing that you would literally fight an animal twice your size to keep that child alive is not something you can just, well, I have a dog. Okay, that's lovely. Dogs are great. I love dogs. But it's not the same as a living, breathing embodiment of yourself and your partner together. So keeping that in mind, when we go out and do stuff, we're not super social. I mean, we're kind of homebodies. My son recently just joined Cub Scouts, and so my husband's been taking him, and they're going to be going on a camping trip in a month or so, and they're getting excited about that. And my son's really excited to go camping. He's never been camping before, so he's super excited. But just
how old is he?
He just turned 8.
Okay, that's a great age,
Yeah, it's a fun age.
Camping without mom, no girls.
I know,
right?
Mom is not. I am, for growing up in the middle of nowhere, rural country girl, I do not like the outdoors now that I'm 40. I'm like, I'll be in a hotel down the road. Y'all have fun.
Yeah, I
Mommy is
her
not
up
a
here
camper.
For the event this summer, and she's like, "What am I going to do there?"
Right. I mentioned it to my husband. I was like, "Oh, I just got invited to go to Montana," and he's like, "You? They invited you?" I was like, "Yes." But I think security it's all forms. It's spending time with your children so they know you are a reliable source of comfort and security. It's, double checking the parking lot before you walk through it with your kids to make sure there's not a visible threat that you can see. If you feel comfortable being out, being armed, do that. If you don't, you should work on that. I am also in the camp of I need to work on that so I can feel more confident being armed when I'm out and about. My husband and I are gun owners, but we have been working with our children since they were young, starting with like BB guns, so that they understand what a firearm is. And like Joe said, it's not a mystery. It's not some mystic toy. It's to be used and in the form of self-defense, but let's just, let you practice on it. And, once you get good with the, BB gun, then we'll start on a 22 rifle and then go up from there. And so my kids have, slowly been learning those things as they get a little bit older. My daughter is 12, my son is 8, so they're at good ages where we can, work with them individually one-on-one so that they understand what a firearm is, its purposes, how to use it, and that it's not, a mystery to be played with. And that's, like Joe said, that's exactly when the worst accidents happen, is when a small child doesn't know what a firearm is other than what they see on TV and then uses it incorrectly, unfortunately.
One of the things that you mentioned before you kind of got into that was the whole, like, people who have dogs. Like, if I could just say that I appreciate pet ownership, but if anybody ever tells me, oh, I'm a proud dog mom ever again.
Don't you just want to just slap them right in the mouth?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say punch them, but yeah.
I would just like to just once get away with just open hand slapping somebody right in the mouth without my husband having to drag me back to the truck and tell me that would be nice. That would be so nice. Just let me make contact. Just let me teach them no.
You girls are old enough to remember like the way me and Joe did growing up. Like you used to, when you were younger, you could get into a fight, and as long as nobody like
pulled a knife or had brass knuckles, the parents were just going to let you duke it out.
It was pretty much a pull them apart kind of situation. Even as a young adult, it's like, all right. They, once it's like they get a couple punches get thrown, and then you just pull them apart and then break it up, and then no harm, no foul. So
and to be clear, only pussies grab hair. It's not my fault it got wrapped up in the ball chain. Yeah. So that's on you. But yeah, no, I've been in fights. I've been in enough fights to know when I do not pick fights. A
friend of mine once said, he's like, the reason why men don't anger other men as adults is because you learned as a young man that if you say the wrong thing to the wrong person, you're going to get popped in the mouth.
Oh, absolutely whooped. Yeah,
for sure.
But I don't know if that's the case anymore, because you see these man children out there who are
because they've never been in a fight and they've
never been bullied.
Right? Yeah. The lack of people getting punched in the mouth. That's why people act the way they do.
It's all of it. It's very we're talking about effeminizing the boys. It's all verbal bullying and ways that girls traditionally will act towards each other. That mean girl mentality being carried over into male spaces is a change in the psychology that's breaking them away from the natural instinct to just get in a tussle, figure out where you stand, who you can and who you can't knock down, and then make friends afterwards. Because I've heard time and time again from men that their very best friend in school, that they were like thick and thin, was the kid that first grade, they got into it, they beat each other up. That was the end of it.
And they were best friends forever.
And they were best friends forever because it was settled. Whereas women, you talk about that first girl that talked behind your back or said something stupid, you hate her still to this day.
Yeah.
And
30 years later, you know her name and you hate her.
You hate her. You wake up in the middle of the night thinking about setting her lawn on fire. I grew up maybe I have grown up in a house full of women here with my daughters and my wife. And the thing that I think is so funny is the whole, can I just say, so maybe there is a component of this that actually is applicable to community security and preparedness, right? And that is like guys like me and Joe are like, okay, thing, then thing, then thing,
And but it's never like two things at one time, right? Unless it's Joe reading the chat while I'm trying to talk to him, but then it's only the chat or only me. Well, I'm sorry. What did you say, Scott? I didn't hear what you told me, but
Yeah, it never goes that way.
I'm sorry.
But like the thing I've noticed with women, it's like the thoughts are like this, like they're all happening all at once. And it's like,
Yep.
It's like having 57 tabs open in Chrome while you're running Excel and printing something at the same time. And we know where everything is at every moment. And we have little bits of attention on every single one of those things. And if you break our attention, we're just going to break you. Sorry.
Pretty much.
And so that takes me to why I think it's applicable to community and family security, right? Like you need that one guy who is just laser focused on like whether it's threat or food or whatever, right? But then, a man needs that woman to kind of keep there's all this other stuff that he just can't focus on. And that you guys are the ones that actually keep everything. And that's the reason why I think everybody kind of realizes that you need a man, but you also need a woman, and you need a strong woman, right? And you need that can pay attention to the children, that can, what are we eating for dinner, and all this kind of stuff. And honey, did you pay the bills? Let me keep my husband in line, right? And so I think there is like some symmetry to that relationship and being able to be prepared for problems, right? Mm-hmm. What are some of the kind of the more mundane things that you guys do that, because Joe, I think Joe, you and I talked about this a long time ago, right? It's like everybody's really focused on, I want to get into the shooty bits, right? Like I want to, look at my guns and my gear and all that kind of stuff. But in reality, it's things like physical fitness, financial security. Like, do I have enough food? Do I have enough of the, not the sexy stuff, but just the stuff that you need to live every day, right?
Yeah.
What do you guys think about that? And how do you kind of, as the female side of that 2-person unit, how do you guys kind of run that show?
Well, for me, a lot of it is inventory and basically personnel management, I guess is the best way of putting it. I have to make sure that my kids have skills trained into them. That way they can handle things if I'm not available doing something else. My daughters right now, they are 11 and 12, my Irish twins. And they can run a kitchen for a full meal for the whole family without me being there, other than maybe some of the cutting, depending on what they want chopped up. But with their brother's help, they can get things in and out of the oven. And as long as I have somebody like supervising them, and that frees me up to do other things like making sure that we have everything in the pantry stocked up that we need to do. Laundry, making sure that everybody's clean, taking care of the little babies. Making sure that, going through grooming is such an important thing that people don't understand, that's one of the first things that go out when your mental health goes. And that's why you see these people that don't want to take a bath. And grooming is important. Sitting there and having your mom comb your hair isn't just a memory. It's her checking you over to make sure that you don't have any injuries. You don't have an infection. You don't have an allergy that's popping off. Making sure that you're getting that personal time where you're being touched and watched and looked at ensures not just it feels good to have mommy brush my hair, but it's also mom being able to ensure that, did you get a cut? Is there something that I need to take care of here? So being able to split up tasks with the family and manage them correctly, I'm able to better have time to do other things.
Yeah. No, I think that's very wise. Joe, I mean, let me ask you a question. You obviously have a wife like I do. What have been some of the kind of
my wife is not Korean. No.
Well, that's true. Not like mine. You as well have a wife. What have been some of the things that have been, as you've kind of like gone deeper and deeper, whether it's through your books or through the classes and stuff, have you been like, this is I never really thought of it, but I'm glad I had her here for this, or she did great in doing this. I mean, where does the appreciation for that better half of you kind of come in?
Well, she's the organizer of everything that we do, right?
Yeah.
So I was gathering up a bunch of stuff and just had stuff, and she was like, but it needs to be somewhere that we can find that particular item when we need it. So she brought the organization to it. And what's funny is while she'll joke about all the preparedness stuff and all of that, when something in the world happens, she instantly asks the relevant questions. Do we have enough of this, enough of that? What is our plan for this? And so she's kind of the realist, I think.
Yeah.
Us guys always dream of, we're going to be in 4 dozen firefights and we're going to be saving the world and we're going to be the hero in John Wick 37. And women are like, nah, but like, do you have something other than spam? Because I'm not eating the spam, right? Far more practical and far more realistic.
She's focusing you on, hey, get out of John Wick and come back to Little House on the Prairie here.
Yeah. And that's
by the way, that was one of the things that I had my daughters. It was like my kind of a secret indoctrination for like a resilient lifestyle is having them read Little House on the Prairie, the whole series.
Yeah.
Nice.
Listen, I always joke about Little House on the Prairie syndrome, but sometimes that's exactly what you need, right? Someone to be thinking about hey, we're still going to have to milk the cows. We're still going to have to have something other than spam to eat. Why that is, I don't know. The woman is clearly crazy and off her rocker, but but we already knew that because she's here. So, yeah.
Well, I think it's Little House on the Prairie, maybe a different book that I'm thinking of, but like somebody gets like a scratch from a nail and dies, like from infection or something like this in the story. But it's just kind of like this like random event, like shit happens, when you don't have a doctor back in the 1800s. I think, being challenged with that kind of mindset, is, I think, let's be honest with you. I mean, if it happens in a fictional environment, I don't think that's unhealthy. That actually is a great opportunity for me to this is the last thing I wanted to kind of, close out with you guys on. You guys are both writers. How have you, I mean, so there's nothing wrong if you don't do this. And in fact, I think there is a lot of value if you do. How have you brought in some of these kind of lifestyle changes that you've instituted with your families into your writing, and how important do you think it is to read stuff that kind of reinforces some of this? I mean, some people call it an alternative lifestyle. I like to just call it practical form of living. And either one of you guys, what do you think on that?
Well, Danielle, you go.
I was just going to say that my writing works don't really have a whole lot of preparedness type things in them. I'm not nearly as practically prepped as Molly is. We're a 4-person house, so I don't have nearly as much of a household to feed like Molly does. But, we kind of all pitch in. I do the vast majority of the cooking because I work from home, but my husband and the kids, they do most of the cleanup, and on the weekends it's, we might spend half a day, getting the backyard together and taking the pool apart and cleaning out the filters and putting them back together and washing the car and going to the park and stuff like that. But, I think it's important that whenever you're writing, whatever style you write, is to add elements that are believable and realistic, like Joe mentioned when we were interviewing him, talking about how you would handle real life medical situations in the wilderness or in a situation where you don't have access to 911 for whatever reason. Either there is no 911 or you're just 5 hours away from where a sheriff could even get to you to bring an ambulance in. And, sometimes that believability is learning how to set a bone like in Joe's book, or how to, if you're walking into an unfamiliar situation, is, how do I say this? Making sure that your character knows how to look around and is
Yeah.
aware of their situation. If you just have your character be flighty and stupid and have no idea what to look for, well, they're probably going to end up dying before the end of the first scene. So
Well-
you want a character that knows how to look around, but don't just make it vague, like actually include how you would really look around for a threat so that the person reading it is actually learning something whether they know
Yeah.
it or not. You're sticking these little realistic real life scenarios or real life learning points in your book, and they don't realize they're learning as they're reading a story. And I think
Yeah.
that's also an element to do it without them realizing they're learning.
Yeah, no, I think that's spot on, Molly. I'll go ahead.
No, I was just going to echo that that's actually really, really smart, because how many times have I heard from survival experts that, well, these people, they did a thing that they saw on a TV show. Lazy writing has killed people.
Oh, God, lazy writing.
So just like kind of throwing together what you think in your mind without having any basis of reality in it together and putting it out there for the public to consume is a little irresponsible. So I'm not saying that my books are, because, okay, so Sibley and I, we have two competing ideas of how the universe is going to kill us. He thinks that it's going to be
just two.
Yeah. He's going for the he's going for the EMP, and I went for the CME. He says Russia, Iran, and China are bonding together to take over the US. I said the universe hates you anyway. And we have two competing.
So what you're saying is yours is more cosmic horror. Like it just doesn't. The universe doesn't care about you.
It does not care. And so Babylon's Fallen Star is based off of a global outage of the grid due to natural causes. And I'm not saying that everything that I put in the book is perfect or has been researched, but I did rely very heavily on a lot of preparedness manuals, a lot of prepper knowledge, a lot of concepts that have been basically very hotly debated amongst prepper communities in order to put together where I think the technology would fall off and what I feel needed to be done in order for my characters to survive or die. Because I'm happy to kill them. They're just brats in a sim for me. But
you're not one of these girls that plays Sims and traps their characters in like a basement with no doors, are you? Oh my God!
Maybe
you and my daughter.
Sorry, is that a problem? Is there something wrong with that?
I'm just glad to see there's other women like my daughters out there.
Does that say something about me psychologically? Maybe.
Yes.
I don't know. Does it?
I'll thank you to mind your own.
I look around for a place to hide. Yeah. Oh boy.
But yeah, but lazy writing on TV shows and in books have genuinely gotten people killed when they have been faced in an emergency situation, and that's all they have to go off of.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, as a reader, double check everything you pick up in a book and try to build a wealth of knowledge rather than just going off of one source.
Yeah,
I think that's valid too.
Yeah, I agree. I really think that it's one thing to get a good idea from a book, like a great example of, and Molly, you being a chicken person, you'll understand this. Like one of the cool ideas I heard in Angry Americans Going Home series was the idea of like, oh, we're going to take all the scraps, the meat scraps, and we're going to put them in a gut box or a gut bag or whatever, and hang it above the chickens, and the flies are going to come in and they're going to lay eggs, and it's going to get maggoty, and the maggots will fall out through the holes in the container, right? In the bottom of the container. And as they fall through, then the chickens will have a little snack to eat. And I thought that was like, wow, is that like a thing? Like that's pretty ingenious. And then I looked it up, and sure as shit, it was a thing. So, there's always like great ideas in all kinds of stuff, and you never know where you're going to find it. But I think you're spot on with that. I I haven't written any long form fiction in a while. But when I have, I've always tried to kind of throw some stuff in there that is practical. And I think, the thing that I try to do more than anything is create characters that like exemplify actual ways that you can behave in a tough situation that would be successful, not, kind of reapplying and reinforcing good behavior versus just absolute stupidity.
Mhm.
What you pulling out there, Joe?
My notes for the class I'm about to start teaching.
Oh, I thought you were going to pull out the draft of your next book and show everybody that it actually exists.
I was going to point out that that whole line Scott just did was actually a dig at me for a project that we're working on and I'm way behind on. That's
you're right. I didn't think of it that way, but you're absolutely right, Joe. My next long form project will be hopefully with Joe, and it's a pretty cool project. So
there may be a former Army colonel who gets bayoneted by a former Marine and CEO in the book. We don't know. We don't know. Sounds like a plot line. I want to address something in the chat. Tactical Wisdom 12, the brown bear is not a friend. Charlie Bear is friend shaped. So why friend shaped if not friend? So, but also, your Arctic boy identified himself and his wife as my second and third favorite Canadians. Let me just clarify. Your Arctic boy is my third favorite Canadian. Mrs. Your Arctic boy, I guess it would be your Arctic girl, is my second favorite Canadian. And Darren is my first favorite Canadian. Just throwing it out there so everybody knows. Just clarify.
I mean, we just need to make sure we need to know that pecking order is sound and secure.
Well, he does anyway. So,
real quick, I wanted to say thank you to Low Key LARP, who jumped right in the chat this morning and gifted us with 5 subscription to Future Conflict over on Rumble. And then, not to be overshadowed, Hunch and Dirty Roofer comes in over the top with a gifted 10 subs. So we appreciate it. If you guys have questions or anything like that, feel free to give us a super chat. Or if you are not a member and you want to join either on Rumble or YouTube, you can always do that as a way to support us. We appreciate you if you do, and we appreciate you if you don't. All right. Hey, ladies, we've been on for over an hour now. So if you need to go, Danielle,
I'm good. I can hang if I somehow need to drop. I will. Great. But for now, we're good. I am the queen of multitasking.
This is perfect. All right. Hey,
hang it. We'll wait till later.
Sorry, Joe.
I mean, Joe, I'm just jealous that they didn't ask me to come on their podcast. I mean, it's almost like they think I might be hard to schedule or something because I'm on the other side of the planet. I don't know.
No, I think it's just that nobody likes you.
That's true too.
No, that's not true.
You set that up for me so perfectly. I couldn't.
I tried. I mean, it's the Joe and Scott comedy team.
Yeah.
Don't forget
amateur comedy. I'm the amateur. He's the comedy. Man.
There you go.
No, actually, we could absolutely have you on. It would take some scheduling, but we pre-record anyway. So it doesn't really matter because the episode the What Did You Do This Week podcast that's up right now, actually, Joe recorded with us on Sunday. And so you can go from literally right after watching this show here, pop onto Spotify and hear Joe talk with us. Yeah.
No, I think that's awesome. I think they're, I think having a kind of a roster of a bunch of good podcasts to kind of, I think it keeps us from going down the rabbit hole of a lot of just stuff that we don't need to like there is so much brain rot on YouTube and X and it's Spotify. I'm so glad for I've got about 7 podcasts that I get new stuff on every week. And can I admit something to you guys? I mean, this is a sharing, area of sharing, who's become my go-to for like conservative commentary? Fucking Megyn Kelly. Can you believe that shit?
You know, I actually saw something she put
Man,
out
I know
recently,
why
and I
that
was
is.
really impressed by her with it. Honestly, I
That's what I'm
was.
saying.
Yeah.
I hit her from time to time, but after Charlie got shot, she has like literally been my go-to for like catching up with that whole thing. Because
Yeah.
like I'm exactly the opposite. So it's like for you guys, it's all in the morning, but it's like almost midnight here for me. So when I
Oh
wake
gosh.
up, all the news is like preloaded essentially for me, and she does that evening podcasts. And so yeah, it's been and she's been fucking fire on this like
Mhm.
on the kind of the partisan divide, and she is giving no prisoners. She did a Turning Point event. I think it was at Virginia Tech,
Mm-hmm.
and man, there were a couple lefty kids in there, and she fucking blew them in place.
She did. She had
Mhm.
them
She
crying
did.
for their mommies
I
and their
I
know.
want to
commie
point
mommies.
out though that
You mean
Charlie Kirk
their
event,
non-gender birthing person?
Yeah,
Yes,
that one. Yeah, that.
Jill.
the Charlie Kirk event made it real for all of the right wing news commentators. Right, Charlie Kirk was a placeholder. Could have been any of them.
Could have been any of them.
So,
Yeah.
I think it's changed a lot of them and brought them back to their true role as an educator rather than as an entertainer. And you're probably going to end up with a lot more fire from the right. So,
Yeah. Well, I think the interesting thing is that I think a lot of them maybe temper their rhetoric because they're trying to maintain a more broad audience. And I think what's been really interesting listening to Megyn Kelly is she doesn't give two shits about anybody who is a wilting violet in her audience. She's cussing. She's going hard in the paint on the whole Jimmy Kimmel thing. And talking about how it's all about me for all these kind of leftist people. So I've been here for it. I've gotten a lot of just kind of phrasing. Yeah, I've gotten a lot of enjoyment from listening to her since all that. Let's jump into.
Hold on, though. I have to address something.
Go ahead.
Pinochet said that Megyn Kelly's a smoke show, and as I just pointed out in the chat, Liz Wheeler is greater than Megyn Kelly. I'm just throwing that out there.
I don't know. I am a little on the partial side to Megyn Kelly, but then again, I remember Megyn Kelly from like 15 years ago when she first showed up on Fox. So it was a little. I don't know. Maybe she was a little younger in my mind's image of her. Though she is holding the battle with time back very very well.
She's a very beautiful woman. But you know what's really kind of funny is I think we're talking about how things have changed since, and these anchors are getting on and getting their own. Dave Rubin is starting to become somebody that we listen to more often now. I remember when he got chased off Twitter.
Yeah.
The Daily Wire is coming back into prominence because they're going where the audience is, and they're filling that need that we were supposed to have journalists doing the job, and they started being all propaganda all the time. And that's on both sides, CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News. It doesn't matter if it's got a right slant or a left slant, it's propaganda. And I think that another thing that I kind of love, this goes back to our Writers Fix Problems days where we're talking about the democratization of literature and how it has given everybody the opportunity, but you got to be good. You have to compete for those ideas.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I really, really love was how citizen journalists and podcasts and how they're like, he was a YouTuber, he was a podcaster. Like that's like Piers Morgan doesn't have his own spot on YouTube, and he has to sell supplements in order to keep that shit going, which is the funniest thing I've seen. It. I talk about watching a man be humbled. How he used to. How can this be real news? You're selling colloidal silver. And what is he doing? Hey, man, are you losing your hair? I will watch the Piers Morgan show just to watch him have to hawk things all day long.
That's so funny. Well, you know what's funny? You know what it's telling is that if you look at any of these clips of the Piers Morgan show, it's all YouTube personalities, right? It's all like kind of populist commentary people,
Mhm.
who make up the vast majority of his panels that he does. And it's like that's where I saw that clip of Anna Sarkeesian just freaking unloading on I think it was Destiny.
Destiny,
And
that was beautiful. That was
and
beautiful.
I suggestively retweeted that clip, and I was like, "Did Anna do something with her hair? She's just absolutely looking beautiful today." It's just because it's amazing when a woman like that actually learns that her side's point of view is fucking wrong. It's like amazing how it brings out her eyes.
Well, that's because there's light in them again now, and
Exactly right. She's
suckling
getting
off of the hive mind.
exactly right. Oh my god, it's so funny how like you see these people on these journeys of like discovery. It's like it's like one thing doesn't make sense to them, and then all of a sudden they'll get attacked for it, and then all of a sudden they'll go down this like rabbit hole of like, holy shit, there's like this like auto constructed lie system that has basically forced me into this way of thinking.
And it's circular; it just feeds off of itself.
Hey, Watcher, in the notes, I just highlighted a link. Let's do this one first because this is the last thing that we talked about, I think. Well, one of the last things we talked about. No, not that one. Look at the notes page.
Oh.
Yeah. Let's do this one first because this talks about the shooting event on Wednesday that basically happened Wednesday morning when we were we were alive. I want to this is a good kind of coda for that event so that we can kind of start from there. This is a tweet from FBI Director Kash Patel. He says FBI Dallas and FBI headquarters have been working 24/7 to seize devices, exploit data, and process writings obtained on location in the subject's person, residence, bedroom. This FBI committed to providing timely updates as promised. The perp downloaded. So this is the Dallas shooting where one detainee was killed. I think one was injured and two others were injured.
Yeah.
And then he committed suicide on the rooftop, evidently. The perp downloaded a document titled Dallas County Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, containing a list of DHS facilities.
Hold on. Let me first point out Kash Patel. Let me give you some advice. No one in American law enforcement uses the term the perp.
The perp. Yeah.
Carry
Well,
on.
Except unless you're Kash Patel. He conducted multiple searches of ballistics and the Charlie Kirk shot video between 9:23 and 9:24. Between 8:19 and 8:24, these are dates. He searched apps that track the presence of ICE agents. One of the handwritten notes recovered read, "Hopefully this will give ICE agents real terror to think is the sniper with AP rounds on that roof." Further accumulated efforts point to this indicates a high degree of pre-attack planning. And then we've got Andy No underneath. Basically, you've got leftists on. Leftists on social media are saying the anti-ICE message on the rifle cartridge found next to the gunman who shot three people, killing one and injuring two at the ICE facility is a far right false flag. Can you believe that, Joe? A far right
For fuck's sake.
Chad Loader and
it wasn't a false flag, but it wasn't too far right.
These people are so primed for a Q level shepherd to just wrap them around the axle and have them chase their own asses. It's ridiculous.
Well, evidently they have found in his possession near the site where he was, like in his car or something like this, or at his home or apartment or whatever it was. Also, revolutionary communist, writings and like propaganda. So clearly, the guy was heavily influenced by mainstream anti-American neo-Marxist thought. Unlike, like this is one of the things that me and Watcher were talking about before the show. Like, aren't they all? Well, there's there's the guy who is a leftist, and then there's the guy who's a a communist, right? And Watcher would say that there's no difference between the two. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, the point is that he's clearly against us, no matter what his ism that put him on that roof that morning is. I just wanted to, Joe, thoughts on this? Is there anything else that you've heard since then? I know this is one of those kind of things that kind of piques your interest when this kind of stuff happens.
Well, once again, as usual, the autists on the internet wanted to argue with me about the wrong thing. I made a snarky comment about, I said my man used a Mosin Nagant, and our side decided to spend the next 36 hours arguing with me about what kind of rifle it was. Y'all are missing the point, right?
Yeah.
Yet again, it's a high-powered bolt-action rifle that they are using, so that's the important thing there. And when I say things like "my man," that doesn't mean that I'm his friend. Literally, 3 different
It's a
people.
figure of speech, literally. That's all it is.
Like, you know the guy, or you sympathize with him? I'm like, no, it was sarcasm, bro.
Well, Joe, I think the anti-gunners are really pissed off that he used a old school bolt action CNR type of rifle.
I know, they're like, man, these are not meeting the narrative we need. But I think that it's once again, it's indicative of the fact that you need to know where these places are. When something like this happens, most people are like, I didn't know there was an ICE facility there. You need to be acutely aware of that. And that's where doing your area study comes in. That's where, paying attention to your surroundings and knowing where you go by, start paying attention so you can avoid this. And you need to know that an attack like this can happen literally anywhere.
Literally anywhere.
And we've caught leftists with the intent to attack festivals and things that are what they consider a right-wing event. So, for example, if you come out here in the West, your best target is a rodeo, right? Because I guarantee you there's not a single leftist at the rodeo. And you have to just be aware of what your risk level is. It is definitely higher than it was 3 weeks ago. And you need to be paying attention to your surroundings.
That's a great. But here's a question I would pose to the ladies. Knowing this stuff is happening out there, when something is going on in a town or a area near you, does it prevent you or make you think twice about going to said event?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Which is sad considering how much my kids look forward to it. Going into town to do the supply run with mom is a big, hairy ass deal. You get in the car, you drive, you got road snacks. You get to see things that we usually take back roads and we cut through all sorts of different wildlife areas and BLM land. And so you get to see bands of wild horses and deer and things that you wouldn't normally see. You get to help do the shopping, meet people that, you're not usually, they're not from your small town. You don't recognize them from the hardware store. And so my kids fight for that shotgun position, and I don't want to take them.
Yeah.
Because if it's just me that gets clipped, big hairy ass deal. I don't want them to take my kids. It's and that kind of goes back to what they were saying about like why even have kids in this environment. Well, I mean, do you want to win the goddamn thing or not? For real, we're in a culture war. And what's that old like Chinese proverb? If you want to plan for a year, you plant wheat or rice. And if you want to plan for 10 years, you plant trees. And if you want to plan for forever, you plant children. Plant your children.
Yeah.
Because I've got my little mini copies out there, and they're going to keep doing what I do. So if I end up, I don't know, and there's so many different ways. If you want to think about it, like there's a million ways to die. Go into the store. You just have to do it. It needs to be done. I don't know where I was going with
that. So Molly, your 16-year-old how do you incorporate him as almost an adult, right? Like, so, I mean, granted he's not an adult, but he's he's getting there. How do you kind of give him more responsibility when you're out with the family at an event or something like that?
Well, I mean, he tends to kind of stay close to his dad, but when we go to public events, it's I've got the littles and they're kind of good, and while they're keeping an eye on me, his dad and him just kind of go do boy stuff. Which, I mean, it's different raising girls. You kind of want to keep them super close and next to you and kind of mother hen them a little bit more.
Yeah.
Boys, they're going to rip themselves off those apron strings anyway and go join the world of men. One of the very best things as a mom that I think that I've tried to do is when you see him enjoying a moment where he's talking with the men, don't call him over and have him do some piddly ass shit that you can just get the daughters to do or do yourself. You don't need to rescue him from that conversation. You got to have a lot of faith and trust in your husband to be his entree into that world.
Yeah.
And Mike's going to do a fine job at it. He is doing a fine job at it. My son he's a really great kid. He's thoughtful. He is a gentleman. He works really hard. I don't think that there's not a day that he's not working just as hard as the grown-ups. So he's got man-sized boots on. We let him just kind of do his gig.
Well, the other side of that is like, he's looking down on you now, right? So he
passed me on the head.
He's a big boy now, but at the same time, he's still a boy, right?
He's taller than I am.
He wants to be a man. He's close, but he's not there yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Almost.
No, he's not. Yeah, he's almost. Well, he'll be 17 in April, so it's really close. But he's also very into the Roman Empire, and he's very much into and so these concepts of etiquette and courage and everything that comes from chivalry for him, he lives it in his real life as he's out there pushing around animals that are bigger than him, talking to like his little sisters and having to change those interactions with other people. He's turning out to be. I'm proud. I don't want to say anything that's going to invite some trouble, but he's a good boy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, and I get mad at him.
Well, like my youngest is just a little younger than him, so I mean, I know the pride and it's
But we've also worked very hard to keep him. He is okay. So he does have friends in the neighborhood, but he is very much different than they are because we have not let him grow up online.
Mm-hmm.
Which is good.
That's so important.
He knows how to use. In fact, he knows how to program. One of the first things that we did as a project for him is I taught him I got him little coding projects, so he knows how to code.
Real quick, sorry.
Yeah.
Joe's got to drop.
Yeah, I got.
Oh, Joe. All right. I didn't realize you had to go so soon.
I have students arriving. I got to go get over there and get ready for class. I got to put on my proper garb for class and all that.
Any final thoughts, Joe, before you put your Rhodesian brushstroke on?
That's exactly what I'm going to put on. And and listen, get into a class because time is getting short. You need to learn some skills and be prepared for the next thing that comes, and that's an active insurgency waged by the left against you. You might not want it, but it's here anyway, and you're going to have to deal with it. So come to class, get the skills you need. In a couple of weeks, we'll be doing my fieldcraft class down in North Carolina at NC Scouts Place, followed immediately by NC Scouts. Y'all are crazy. Y'all just threw me off. NC Scouts Scout course and then Recce course. There are no Rhodesian brushstroke silkies in this house. Just knock it off, you guys. The number
But,
of
you know,
you who fantasize about me and Silkies is a little creepy. I'm just throwing.
let me ask you this. Okay, so Joe, I got it. I would never put you in something demeaning. Now, that being said, would you buy your wife Lululemon Rhodesian brushstroke like yoga pants?
Objection. Already did. She Fire Force Ventures made some Rhodesian brushstroke leggings, and she has them. So yes,
Does she like them is the question.
That's
they're
right.
sold out, by the
We'll
way,
see where.
so.
Yes. Oh.
There's an RBS banana hammock. Oh no. That's not happening.
I mean, maybe we could fundraise off of that. I mean, I'm just spitballing here.
Right?
I mean,
We can make a calendar for your camp.
Yes, we need
A doe of every season.
calendar. That's what we
the
need.
tactical wither. Oh my God, that would be so good.
Inviting you two on here was a mistake, clearly.
No,
Yeah.
you love
No.
us. Don't
No.
lie. You love
Council
us.
on future conflict calendar now.
Gals,
I want
this needs to become a monthly spot. I think.
Yeah. And since we prepared raised his head in chat, that guy's got more Rhodesian brushstroke than me, and I'm pretty sure he has Rhodesian brushstroke silkies. On that note, I am out.
All right, Joe. We'll see you, brother. Appreciate
Bye,
you.
Joe.
Bye,
see
Joe.
We'll see you on Monday.
All right.
All right. We don't need Joe to have a good time here. So let me ask you this: what news stories in the last couple of weeks have really kind of jumped out to you guys as being like, well, this is a little different? I mean, clearly Charlie Kirk is obvious, but is there anything else that's, or like maybe trends that have been occurring in America that that have just kind of stood out to you?
like in a good or a bad way? Because I
Or
got
a bad
one.
way.
Oh, okay.
I can't think of a lot of great trends that have been. Well, I don't know. In the wake of Charlie Kirk, I hate to say it, but I see a lot of good things that are kind of developing. But it's all promise at this point. It's not like actual. It hasn't delivered yet.
Well, how about this new the whole being pregnant and eating Tylenol being the
Oh
new
my
Tide
God.
Pods challenge? Like, what in the hell, ladies? Please.
Please stop doing that to your unborn child and your own
Stop.
liver. I beg you, please don't do that.
Hey, Watcher, as my keeper of memes, did we ever find out if that story about the woman who supposedly overdosed on Tylenol, if that was real or not?
I think that was fake.
No.
No?
Unfortunately,
Okay.
no. I mean, it
no.
hasn't been. It hasn't been like nobody's come out with a hey, we've got the hospital documents to prove it. What has happened is that the person who shared the story had a bunch of doctors come out and say, I know this person who is sharing this. I've worked with them personally, and if they're sharing it, it happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's right, because she was like an ER nurse or something like that, right?
Yes.
Okay,
That is
so
so sad.
oh my God. Okay, I get that. Okay, what I don't understand is, okay, where to start? Okay,
Right?
so he
From
said
the
he
beginning,
said
Molly.
Tylenol.
From the beginning.
Okay, so he said Tylenol. When Trump said Tylenol, he means acetaminophen.
Yeah.
They call it something else in Europe. I think.
Paracetamol.
Paracetamol or something like that. Yeah, but he meant it the way that out here, if you want a Coke, well, what flavor do you want? He doesn't mean Coca-Cola brand cola. He means
Right,
do you want a
right.
soda pop, or however it is that y'all say it out there. A fizzy drink. It,
Is it bubbly?
right? So when he said Tylenol, he means acetaminophen. That you have the same class of people that are screaming, we can't afford anything, we never get name brand anything, to have the name brand Tylenol on their counter, rushing in to defend a multi-billion-dollar corporation because
Pharmaceutical corporation, no
I
less.
know because why? Because Trump is being mean and because RFK is being mean. They didn't invent this shit. That study has been going on. Okay. So there's two studies that are on the FDA website that they're talking about. and it's the Nurses Health Study 2 and the Boston Birth Cohort. These are nurses studies where they are looking at the downstream effects of things. The Nurses Study 1, the first study, was started in, I believe it was 60 something. Let me take a look in my notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1976, out of the Harvard School, Harvard Chan School, and the Brigham and Women's Hospital. And the whole point of that study was to look at instances of rises in breast cancer after the introduction of the birth control pill. You don't investigate something and put together a massive cohort of nurses to take a look at something that doesn't exist. It's not like they were just like, well, we got to spend a bunch of money and let's just write a bunch of pharmaceuticals on one set of golf balls and put them in this ball, and a disease on a bunch of others in this bowl, and pick one and make them work. And what's really kind of interesting is if you look at global statistics in breast cancer, you see a sharp incline every single time there's been a push forward for what the ACLU and Planned Parenthood would call like landmark cases, where they're able to get into schools and have more access to younger girls. Massive upticks in breast cancer about 5-10 years after. And another, like, if you look at like where it's like low, there's a whole thing. It's an atlas on that the World Health Organization has put together, the American Cancer Society, and it's about different types of cancer. And they list us as a high risk, high occurrence nation. But if you look at Japan, and they're a low risk, low occurrence nation, and you track that same trend with the 1999 advent of the birth control pill being allowed and legal in Japan, those breast cancer numbers skyrocket. They just take off. So they have.
So fucking with young girls' hormones might not be a good idea.
Not be a great idea. So these nurses studies were started around that, but even that has come to take into account things like genetics, family, like environment, smoking, diet, any other things that could become it. So that was, and it was so successful, and they were able to get such great data that they actually put together a different cohort. And that's the Nurses Study 2, which was put together in, I believe it was in the 80s. I think it might have been 85. But because they were getting really, really good data. Now, the second study that was published is from the Boston Birth Cohort. They were started because they were seeing an uptick in preemies and premature babies, and they have since been addressing women's health. These are not right-wing Republican organizations. These are women's hospitals. I'm pretty sure plenty of their panel members and people who have done these studies are the kind of people who think that abortion is healthcare. They are not our guys, and they have been ringing this bell and ringing this bell. And the only reason why the science isn't settled is because nobody's willing to take a woman, stick her in a chair, or 50 women, stick them in a chair, get them pregnant, pump them full of acetaminophen, and then happens. Read out the. So since we can't prove it through a study because that would be immoral, then it's kind of like you can have people battling on both sides of, well, it's not proven. Okay, but we have pretty good evidence.
Yeah.
Well, this causality, but we have caution. And if we're going to err on the side of caution, do so for your child.
Did you guys see that 2017 tweet that is going viral again?
Yes.
From Tylenol that said, we don't recommend pregnant women use our
products.
Any of our
products. Yeah.
And that's another thing, is there's this med speech thing that's like translating medical terminology to people who have not had so many children that, they basically just being there just walked out. Just because I've had a lot of babies. It's just the med speak.
Has it become like just a day visit for you now?
No, you know what? I did the whole home birth thing for the last two. I didn't even
Oh,
bother
really?
with the hospital. Yeah. Why? Why?
Midwife or doc or midwife for those?
Midwife. But
Midwife.
she was a nurse practitioner. And we have a pretty decent like health system here. I'm fine. You get to be old hat at it. It's so like whatever. I'm having a baby. Give me a chicken.
It's just Tuesday. It's fine. She's just having a baby. It's fine.
Oh, I have famously live tweeted through the birth of one of my children. Just been there the whole time.
True.
Are you kidding me?
No,
she's not.
Absolutely not.
How did I not know that about you?
Yeah, and I was just like, and I took a picture. I was like, look what I was doing, and they're like, oh, that's why you were up all night. Yeah.
Ew, gross.
She's birthing a baby.
I was birthing a baby and shit posting about, I think, Gladiator, but but my point is that where did I go, Danielle? Where'd I go?
You went to birthing babies. Everything's normal. Nurse studies.
Oh yeah, no, the med speak. When they say that Tylenol is the safest thing to take while pregnant, that doesn't mean just go eat it like candy. That means that there's things that have worse side effects.
Yeah.
When every doctor, when they are putting together concepts of how to care for a patient, they know that these drugs have interactions. They know that they have side effects. They try to balance out what's safest. Not that it's safe. Safe is not taking anything.
Yeah.
But when you got a runaway fever in a woman who is 6 months pregnant, maybe you need to control that fever for the sake of the baby, and maybe safest is best.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you know what's really funny is that like I've never been like really against drugs or things like that or vaccines or
Right.
I've just never really kind of, but at the same time, like outside of the stuff that you take, I guess, for like my kind of go-to is Excedrin, right? Because I'll get headaches from time to time. And I take Excedrin, knocks it right out. And so like, I don't take a lot of just medicine, prescription or otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just what shocks me is how many people are just on daily pills. And they don't seem like a whole lot less healthy than me. And maybe that's a misunderstanding of what the hell they're going through. But I think part of it goes to this. And I'm kind of referring back to the way you kind of went through your, having kids. It's like, listen, if you just kind of build up a resilience within your life, right? Through hard living, through, deliberate planning, there's all kinds of ways of building kind of mental resilience in your head. Right. And I think if you just kind of understand that, like, part of living is maybe having aches and pains. And so, it's not the end of the world if things aren't perfect. You just don't need to turn to. And I think that's one of the things that you see in modern life is just this over medication for almost any perceived, purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys kind of have seen that same thing and have thought about it, or I know Molly, you have. I don't know, Danielle, what's your take?
I think that America as an entire society, we tend to consume way more than any other country. And you can apply that to pretty much anything, including medications, whether they're like over-the-counter things or they're like doctor prescribed. And I think people need to be very wary of what they're putting in their body because, of course, it's easy when the doctor says, oh, it's safe. Like Molly said, that's kind of doctor legalese to, hey, it's safer than taking this other one, which will just make your whole body turn into goo or whatever. But there's really not a whole lot of things that are 100% safe for a woman while she's gestating another human inside of her. But I've been pregnant twice. I've had my doctor tell me it was totally fine to take Tylenol. Now, I didn't take Tylenol not because I thought it wasn't safe. It was because Tylenol does jack shit to help me when I'm in pain. And I rarely get fevers, and I mostly just let them run their course. I've never really had one get above like 102, so I'm not generally worried about, oh no, my fever is so high. I use other more natural methods to bring my fevers down. I may go take a cool bath. I may,
Yeah.
put some ice in strategic parts of my body, whatever. But I think, we just have to realize that we consume so much, and that's, antibiotics and over-the-counter pain meds and all of those things. We take so many, and maybe some of it's valid, but I honestly think a huge portion of that is just we're a society that, oh, you have a headache, take a pill. Well, maybe you need to drink some water. Maybe you need some electrolytes. Maybe you need to go for a walk. Like, you don't necessarily need to take a pill for everything, I guess, is my answer.
Yeah, I think you're right. Watcher, this kind of, if you could pull that link that I just shared in the private chat, this is kind of relating to this. And maybe this is the kind of thing that we need to kind of start pushing out there. If they're willing to selectively damage their babies because just to own the cons, maybe we should do something along these lines.
My fellow Americans, in light of recent studies, I wanted to warn against the use of toasters in your bathtub or your shower. It's an incredibly dangerous thing to do. You can get electrocuted. They call it electrocuted. I call it zapped like you've never seen before. A shocking experience. You don't want to get zapped. That much I can tell you, especially if you're on the left. You people are fried enough as it is. We don't need it to get any worse. And the electricity is no joke. I got along very well with, you may have heard of him, Benjamin Franklin. I called him Brilliant Ben. And he was flying a kite, and the lightning hit it. And he was getting electrocuted. He was getting zapped. And I grounded him. And if I wasn't there, it would have been a much different situation. But I grounded him, and we discovered electricity together. Brilliant Ben. Tremendous guy. Got along very well with.
I mean, I'm just saying, maybe that's the,
I've seen similar memes to that where it's like, hey, Trump, please come out and tell people that, drinking your own urine is amazing for you so we can watch the leftists just sit there and drink their own piss.
Oh, my God. If he were to say, I saw a TikTok, and it was like quite literally this woman sitting there, she's chewing, and it says, Trump says that eating your own poop is bad for you. And she, like, the left, and she smiles, and she's got brownie in her teeth. Like, she's so I sent it to you, honey.
Oh.
So gross. Oh, my God.
Icky chicken.
That's so funny.
That's hilarious.
All right. Let's see. I don't want to talk about Comey. We had that one, and I don't want to talk about wealth distribution by generation. So, have you guys seen? So I've just been kind of flicking through my flick. Well, I was gonna say flicking through my timeline here on X. I mean, what? I don't know what the kids are saying these days. I think I meant to say flipping, but I mean, you can see me on camera. I'm not. Guys are just bad. Anyway, did you guys see? Watcher, did you see about this kid, this like 17-year-old kid, evidently that was kidnapped by like off the street by like 4 guys?
Yeah.
I saw something about that last night. I didn't remember.
Basically,
so
he like
texts his mom. His mom says, "I just got shot. 4 guys in a white van," and that was the last. His cell phone was found at the position that it last pinged, snapped in half.
Oh God!
Oh my God!
Yeah, and he said they were foreign, or I don't know how he described them.
Yeah.
What city was this in?
Is it Florida somewhere?
Yeah, it's in Florida. Let me.
Okay, Somewhere in Florida.
I'm looking for it right now. Of course, I don't have anything.
Here we go. Caden Springs. Or no, sorry, that's the name of the kid. Caden Sprite of Dullen, Florida. Or Dullian?
Yeah.
Denellen.
Yeah,
That's what it
I
is.
think that was maybe the story I started to see last night.
Oh
before
my
I went
God,
to
his
bed.
poor mother.
And
I
they
mean,
still
so
haven't found him, right? He's still missing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my gosh,
ha-
look at his face. He's just a baby.
Yeah. Can you go back up to the original post there? Caden. I just wanted to get his name so I could search it. But I guess he's 17 years old, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about, like with our kids, is that we think that they're a lot safer, when they're getting older. But like, I've got a daughter who's 19 at college, and like a day doesn't go by that I don't think of like, well, like, is she ready for this? Or, and like one of the things I told my youngest daughter is like, when we move back to the States, I'm buying both you and your sister, a gun, so
Yeah.
that you're
Yeah.
never unaware that you may need to have a firearm with you.
This is not. Oh God. Wow. So this is Denellen. It's not a big city, nor is it anywhere near a big city.
It's just out in the middle of nowhere.
It's in the middle of nowhere, but it's got that highway cutting through, which
Yes, right.
A big highway.
We used to build our cities around waterways, where resources are, and now for some reason we're doing it around highways.
Suspects are 4 unknown Hispanic males in a light-colored van. Text to mom, I need help, 4 Hispanics in a white van, 1 driver, I'm shot. Man, this is just fucking heartbreaking.
Oh my God.
So, I mean, we think of these things as like mundane type of threats to, children and young adults, but, it's still a threat, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be the Russians or the communists.
No, it
or,
could just be some weirdo driving through in a van.
Exactly right.
Yeah. And yeah, that is something that I worry about all the time. If the dogs bark weird, I check it out. Dogs are not the best at keeping you informed of people being at the fence line, but it's close. I really just, at some point, you got to give it to God.
Yeah.
You can only teach your kids so much and love them so much and talk to them so much about situational awareness and safety. You gotta trust the same angels that carried you through.
Watcher, can you pull that Halloween display up? This kind of brings that in stark focus.
Yeah, that's is a little closer to home, unfortunately, ladies. Oh, wrong video. Hold on. So, I believe found in Houston, Texas today.
What the hell?
Yeah, I think I saw that right before we came on. I saw it somewhere on Twitter. I was scrolling and I saw that and I was like, wow.
Yeah, the guy who posts this says, family in Houston, Texas put a Halloween display up that has 2 MAGA mannequins wearing red hats being hanged from gallows, topped by a Mexican flag. This hateful display will likely incite violence. Probably. It goes past free speech. So here's the thing, right? This is where free speech gets hard, right? It's like, do they have the right to do this?
Well,
or does this get to inciting violence, right?
Well, considering they have it like roped off with like barbed wire fencing, they know exactly what they are doing. They're gonna try to have people take it down, and they've got it fenced off with, it looks like, razor wire or something. So they know it's completely, disgusting. It's not even really funny. At least not to me. And I mean, you said Houston. Okay, so that's closer to the border than where I am in Dallas. And, you know, Molly and I have enough friends that work down near the border in law enforcement that, you know, we know that those guys are being targeted all the time. I mean, our friend who's in CBP, his house has been shot at before by cartel members.
Yeah.
You know, and he stays completely anonymous because he has 4 daughters and a wife, and you know, his whole thing is coming home to them, not ending up on the news like the ICE shooting the other day in Dallas. And from his point of view, one of the reasons he feels that the shooters have suddenly started using much older rifles is because they are now aware of what type of caliber their vests and their ballistic plates can stop versus not stop.
Yeah.
Which is just terrifying. Like
it's horrifying.
Horrifying.
Yeah, you know, I don't want to get a call that my friend who I've known for years is gone because of some, you know, asshole who just decided, oh, he looked like a great target because he's doing his job trying to keep people from coming into this country who are, I mean, they're already breaking the law coming in, but even if they are, you know, the perfect, most law-abiding citizen ever, they've still broken the law. And that doesn't even cover the ones who are harming others, who are attacking other people. You know, he has, the stories this man could tell you would probably make you weep for the things he's seen down on the border. He has found children left unattended, completely nude, just wandering. You know, he has found the victims of repeated assaults, I'll just say, to keep it a little friendly, down there on the border that were being trafficked across, you know, just left in the woods to die, completely just alone, terrified, traumatized. And then you have, you know, people like Nancy Pelosi who are just like, oh, they, you know, everything's fine and dandy. There's not a problem on the border. Everything's fine. Ha ha ha. And he's like, really? Come tell that to the women who I find in these stash houses who are literally tied down and harmed irreparably, repeatedly over and over again. Tell that to the little children we find just wandering lost in the woods, looking for their mommy and daddy who maybe are further back somewhere else. Maybe they're
not showing up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you know, have you been
horrifying.
following it? Have you been following any of the announcements out of the? I guess it's the FBI, or I can't remember exactly who it is that was saying this, but they're starting to recover a lot of these kids that were brought across the border illegally, and a lot of them are being found in very tenuous situations. Some of them are being exploited. Others are essentially being held for people in a kind of a limbo. So it's, you know, there's some really just scary, dark stuff
It's horrifying.
like, even though you shut the border down, right? And so you don't have a whole lot of people coming across, you still have the, you know, what is it? They're saying now 12 million people came across the border illegally in the last, I don't know, maybe more. And so the knock-on effects are just going to continue to, you know, these people don't just disappear.
Yeah.
No, they don't. And not knowing who they are is, or where they are, is awful. And that is a horrific thought. Can we go back to that yard in Texas? Because do you mind bringing it back up? I kind of
it's right here.
Okay. Who that? Okay, are we sure that it's a family? Because I'm looking at least $150 worth of barbed wire.
No, I'm
maybe
not.
100
Also,
posts.
nobody's sure about anything on this. The only thing I know for sure is that a friend of mine asked, "What does Santa have to do with any of this?"
I know, but you know, it's just, you know what
Santa's
this
just
is.
hanging out
These
back
are
there.
these like leftover 60 hippies, boomers with too much time and money on their hands. Is what this is. They're the most wasteful, and I try not to get into the cohort intergenerational bullshit because it is bullshit. But I'm sorry, the old leftover hippies, just, they are the worst. They're wasteful and they're obnoxious and they do dumb shit like this. just God, get a hobby.
Yeah.
I know retirement's hard, but get a hobby. Raise chickens. Chill out. Smoke some weed. Calm down.
Get some goats, something.
Yeah. You need to relax, man. Who has
Get
this much
laid,
hate
something.
Who has this much hate and anger? They're like, I'm gonna get a mannequin and I'm gonna dress. You are dumb.
I
So
mean, my
dumb.
question is where did they get 2 full-size coffins to just put on the ground next to the stupid?
That is kind of a,
do
that
they
is-
work
yeah,
in the
that is-
mortuary
okay.
arts where they just have them lying around? I'm genuinely
Well,
curious
you
by
can
this.
buy coffins from Costco.
Can you really?
Yes, you can.
I'm not
Let me
buying
catch
a
up.
Costco coffin.
Let me Costco. It's got to be the best quality one. Let me catch up on some of my super chats here. Over on Rumble, Hunch Dirty Roofer for $1 says Liz Wheeler has crazy eyes. Yes, well, Liz Wheeler is still pretty. She's still pretty even with crazy eyes. Pinochet's helicopter tours for $2 says, all right, this is a good one. I'll pose this to you, ladies. Can you ask the guests how they feel about incidents like Uvalde? Does the local law enforcement inspire confidence in keeping the peace, or has defund the police really changed things? Yeah, that's a great. Specifically, Daniel, let me throw this one to you first. I mean, you living near a big city where if something bad were to happen to your kids who are in public schools, you know, do you trust the law enforcement?
I would have to say yes. Okay. My initial gut reaction is I do trust the police.
Next Saturday?
I know Uvalde was a much smaller town, obviously, than where I live. But I know as we found out, you know, as details came out from that whole situation that, you know, they had training in that specific scenario. They had, you know, more tactical style weapons to go into a situation like that, and they didn't. And I like to think that the police that we have here in my area, you know, I live in Dallas, like my street address is Dallas, but we are very close to some other communities, and they have great police. And I would like to think that my police would be a little bit more like we saw with the school shooter in Memphis, where the dude just rolls up and he's like, I need 3, let's go. And he just completely eviscerated the shooter.
Yeah.
You know, that is more the police that I feel we have.
If I remember correctly, in Uvalde, wasn't it like BORTAC guys showing up?
It was, yeah, it was actually a BORTAC agent who was off duty, who was in the area, because Uvalde is not very far from the border. If anybody is not familiar, Uvalde is quite close to the border. So they were very used to a lot of border activity with people like wandering through the streets and the neighborhoods at night. And so, you know, that in and of itself is an issue that might have played a role. I don't know. But yeah, it was a BORTAC agent who actually is a friend of our friend, who went in and actually got it shut down, stopped it, handled it, you know, but it should have happened hours before that. And everybody knows that. But because of fear, cowardice, miscommunication, whatever you want to say, we lost all those beautiful lives because people didn't act.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's when, you know, when men aren't men, people get hurt.
Yeah,
correct. I agree with that.
That is absolutely true, because it's a man's job to hold the territory in order to make the nesting ground. You can't just nest wherever.
Well, you know, that's been a tough kind of conversation to have. You know, like I've got a fairly independent wife, you know, and she's got her ideas on what the right, you know, thing a mom and a wife should be, right? And then but sometimes that's a little different than some of these, you know, ideas that I think are more traditional American ideas for, you know, gender roles and things like this,
right?
And it's you know, that's a delicate act. Like, how, yes, as a girl you can be whatever you want to be. That being said, you know, oftentimes you will find you are happiest when you do X, Y, and Z, and that may go against some of the more modern feminist theories of how to be happy.
Well, how many feminists do you know that are happy?
Well, I mean, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
They are not happy people. So that alone, just know that negates your philosophy, your entire philosophy right there. You are unhappy and shrill and upset and angry at everything, and I don't like your ideas, and I do not want to join your newsletter.
Unsubscribe.
Just no thanks. I will pass.
Yeah.
Hard pass. But going back to what they were saying about how defund the police, how that affects the thing. Everybody likes to bitch about how teachers are low paid. Nobody wants to talk about how very low paid the wages are for our law enforcement officers. I don't think that they're paid enough.
Mm-hmm.
And a teacher has to corral your kid. A cop has to be there at everyone's worst day ever. The police don't show up because it's a birthday party and you're having fun, unless it's like a noise complaint, at which point they just kind of like, yep, that's noise, and then they leave. Because why? Just stop it. But I think that when you have people that are willing to do that job because it's more of a calling than a career, that putting all that extra, like, I'm not saying don't hold them accountable, because there is a good way to do the job, and we should all be very invested in how society behaves in criminal justice areas. But at the same time, can you give the people a break just for 5 fucking seconds and quit acting like one of them is all of them? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I totally get where you're coming from on that.
And I'm not saying go out and hug your local PD officer just out of nowhere and give him a hug, because that's funny for me, but probably not funny for him.
Yeah, no, you might end up in handcuffs and not in the fun way. So don't go randomly hugging police officers.
The cops never think it's as funny as you do.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is my changing attitude on police, right? Like, do I still say there are a lot of great cops out there? I do, but the problem is that you have no idea who they are until you get to know them as people, right? But ultimately, there are cops out there that are willing to kind of resist the authoritarian impulse and even say no when authoritarians in their local chain of command tell them to do things that they otherwise might not do. But the problem that we found out during COVID was there are way too many local cops who we thought are good guys who are willing to enforce, things that are absolutely against the Constitution and against the ability even just for local law enforcement to have a say in things. Like what was really surprising to me was how many local law enforcement went along with the whole, sorry, you can't go to this church, because you can't come together.
Yeah. What was that?
Yeah. I mean, so it's kind of like every time I try to say, okay, yeah, there's some good cops out there, I have to remind myself there are also a whole lot of fucking closet authoritarians out there as well.
Well, but at the same time, you have to look at the allure. Okay, so if so my degree that I got is basically how concepts like religion and society inform governmental decisions and laws that people make. And part of that was going through basically how to, like, the safety features that you have to do to set up a church in modern day eras. And you have to understand that. So putting together a church, you have to background check everyone who's going to be in the ministry, period. Because where there are lambs, there are wolves. And I think that also applies to teachers' unions and authoritarianism in policing. And there are going to be people who are going to be attracted to it for the right reasons. And then there are going to be people that just get their jollies off of having access to vulnerable populations.
And the ability to control them in some form or fashion.
Well, and if this wasn't true, we wouldn't need the Uniform Code of Military Justice for dealing with anything but civilian contracts. There would not be MPs other than keeping people like me from trying to peek in the showers. And ma'am, it's the third time this week. You're going to have to go home.
Yeah.
Okay, but can we stop at Starbucks?
Get in the truck, Molly. Get in
the truck. Shut up and get in the truck, lady. We lost Scott. We're taking over the show now. The show is ours. Yay!
Oh, damn, you brought him back.
Damn it.
I taste my mouth, the side mouse key, so I apologize.
I was already picking out furniture for us running the show.
Yeah, we were about to move into the headquarters.
It was going to go from Council of Future Contract Conflict. What did you do this week? Ready for a game of Icky Chicken?
That's right. That's right. This is our joke channel now. We own it. Durner for $5 says there was a reason why we remember Marat and not the weirdo hobo sans culottes who carried out the revolutionary terror. Rhetoric is a force multiplier. It's a part of warfare. So just in case you did, that's deep lore on the French Revolution that he's talking about. Sans culottes are the people without pants. Basically, they were the urban poor foot soldiers of the French Revolution, that the people who got whipped up into a fury and then stormed the Bastille and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to say it, but I love the French Revolution. There is just so much goodness there. And there's a great podcast called the Revolutions Podcast. The third season of that just goes like way into depth on the French Revolution. So if you're interested in that, I would highly recommend that. But
Molly would like it simply because they're not wearing pants.
Yeah, but they're French, so it's kind of like a trade-off.
That's true. That's true.
Just when I meet good, women that are trustworthy and good like you two, I see things like this in my feed that make me just go, what the hell?
Uh-oh.
Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday. And right now, you
Are you kidding me?
per person. £200 off for a family of 4.
The hell is the matter? Is she doing that on purpose?
We've got millions of
stuff?
free child place holidays
This
available.
person's like, this is going to blow up. I'm getting out of here.
Or they went to go run and smash the emergency stop button.
That emergency stop button should be right there at the.
There usually is one right at each pump set. At least maybe that's not in America. I don't know.
I have no
I
idea.
don't know. It looks like America.
Now,
Okay.
in her defense, I did we have a small town gas station here that isn't like a Chevron or whatever, and it works off of its own card. So we have a gas card that we go to this place, and usually Mike fills up my car. So I had to go and do it once, and I didn't quite know how to put the card here and turn this button and make it work. So I had to have a little bit of help, but I got it now. I don't understand what the hell that was.
I feel like I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. I feel like the handle got stuck. I know, I'm being very generous today.
And she just
I feel
pulled it out?
And she just or she never put it in, and she just pulled the handle, and then it locked, and it's just spraying.
Will
I don't
gas activate if it doesn't have if it's not in the
apparently,
thing?
apparently.
Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to fill up gas cans.
Well, once it starts
Yeah.
going, then that's right. I guess the gas cans, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's just.
I'm going to give her the
ladies-
benefit of the doubt, but
Oh my god! Oh my god! I'm surprised she wasn't smoking.
I mean, that might have been why the person filming ran, because they were smoking.
Right?
I-
Just like,
my-
I better step back.
Oh yeah, let me not get incinerated today.
Scott got booby trapped.
That's my favorite mod.
Oops.
Daisy Girl Williams has said Scott got booby trapped.
Uh-huh.
I don't. I think that maybe that might have been, from when I backspaced. I don't know. Anyway, ladies, it's 2 hours and 9 minutes. You have made this one of the better shows in a long time. Let's just kind of we'll end the show the way we normally do, and kind of look into the near future. What do you guys think is going to happen in the world over the next couple days, couple weeks, that has got you kind of where's your head focused when you look to the near future? When it comes to your preps, when it comes to security, when it comes to your family, and I don't mean like the bake sale next week.
Not the bake sale. Okay. For me specifically, I think just keeping a close watch on my children. We live in a fairly safe neighborhood. I don't really know any of my neighbors. It is kind of a quiet neighborhood, but we've also had Amazon packages left on the porch over the weekend, and they were right where they got dropped off. So low crime for a small, middle class neighborhood. But I also know that I hear sirens late at night going, 2 miles down the road where there's, some grittier apartments located. So I recognize that despite being in a little suburban area, that there is higher crime areas not very far from me. And sometimes that means when we're out with our kids, just keeping my hand on my youngest one, my son, who's more likely to just kind of wander because he just kind of likes to just run off and go do his own thing sometimes. But just being aware of your surroundings, that's really, and it could be in all forms, whether it's keeping an eye on the news, whether it's, the president saying this and the left is saying this, and now there's more, fuel between them and it's going to erupt somewhere. And you really hope it doesn't erupt, at the Texas State Fair while you're there taking your kids, because now they've banned all firearms. So, instead of being around a couple thousand, armed rednecks, technically you're not supposed to have a gun at this fair at all anymore. So it actually feels less safe now, knowing that there's maybe not going to be some armed good old boys who can jump in if something starts going on.
Because those grandpas can ping anything from their little pea shooter in their pocket, and I feel safer with the kids in an armed society. I just do.
So do I.
I'm the same way. I feel way more comfortable in an armed society than, and I mean, part of that's me being in the military and walking around post in a deployment area. Like everybody's armed. Everybody's armed. In fact, if you don't have a weapon, then you're wrong, right? Mm-hmm. Molly. I'm sorry. Was that Molly that was just talking, or was it Daniel? I lost track.
Daniel was talking.
Yeah, Molly. What? Yeah, I thought so. Molly, what's your kind of near-term worry that maybe something in the news that's keeping?
Okay, this Bella Ciao thing. Okay, so they had to lock an entire generation of kids down in COVID and force feed them furry culture online and pornography, and in order for them to do it, that's the sacrifices that they made. But the left is learning to lead, and that is it's pretty scary, because.
In fairness, that's a meme that's probably 80 years old, though.
Well, okay, but that's the thing. It's a song, and songs are the original memes, and they lock people into different imagery and different mindsets, and they actually, music can bypass your forward reasoning centers in your brain and bring out mainly emotional reactions. The Bella Ciao thing is starting to get nods in mainstream culture. Most recently, it was used in the first episode of actually the same day as Charlie Kirk's memorial. They aired on Amazon Tulsa King with Sylvester Stallone. Now, keep in mind, these are pre-recorded. I don't think it just was weird timing where they used Bella Ciao in the opening. And that goes back to previous discussions on society and the anti-hero and the imagery there, and how that has that rule of cool effect to it.
Yeah.
But it's also being used, and I brought this up like at a late night DM tweet with in our guest spot. Expect new things to start morphing. The Guy Fawkes mask is probably going to become old-fashioned and fall out of date in favor of Salvador Dali from Money Heist on Netflix. And that's also one that uses Bella Ciao. One of the things with TikTok is how they organize their clips by sound to give it an emotional feel. They are memeing through music. And if you go through the Bella Ciao on TikTok, just the sound feature, you will see that it's mostly predominantly violent leftist revolutionary images for that communist takeover and revolution.
Yeah.
So that's
a lot of, we're fighting the big man and we're the small people and this is our rally cry, and a lot of imagery that evokes, violence. Honestly, it's, burning buildings and smashing windows and flags waved high and, your fist raised up, and none of that communicates, hey, let's get together and talk like men and women and just have dialogue. No, that's violence. That is, we saw that kind of behavior when Trump was inaugurated the first time. Way back when. I remember watching that being
Antifa
like,
was there. Yeah.
How
Antifa
the
was
hell is Washington, D.C. allowing this to happen? They're burning limousines on the street corner. I remember watching in horror, like, where are the cops? Like, why is this not being shut down? And this was before he even got in office. So anyone saying, oh, it's because everybody hates Trump, he hadn't even gotten into the office to do anything reprehensible yet. So just shut up with that rhetoric. But like, I'm watching them smash Starbucks windows and burn limousines, and they're marching 2 blocks away from where the president is walking down the street waving at people. And I'm just like, where is the Secret Service? Where's the FBI? Where is DCPD? Like, none of them seem to care. I was shocked, to be honest.
And there's also this a lot of it seems to be, okay, so we know that Antifa is the left's foot soldiers, but it seems like they're kind of being privately contracted out as well. You remember during the Summer of Love when suddenly they were attacking Targets out of nowhere? And like just out of nowhere, Target suddenly became, it wasn't the Gap, it wasn't Starbucks, it wasn't just like places on the main street. They were deliberately raiding Targets.
Yeah.
Then we find during the ICE riots in LA that there's a guy pulling up with a bunch of masks that come specifically from Walmart. And then you find out that the woman who is basically the heir to the Walmart fortune is very big into spending her money politically. What the fuck? Did she have them attack Target to boost
Walmart
her
sales
investments
and stocks?
And there were some strategic closures of Walmarts and things like that around the same time, if I remember correctly, especially in urban areas. Maybe is that to keep them from being damaged prior to some of this stuff?
Maybe. All I know is that I'm a woman and that's how I think. I'm not coming for you. I'm coming for your neighbor with porn with your name on it and their address. And that's so you have to explain to them where that came from. I'm not, I'm not saying she did. I'm just saying I would.
Lance Corporal Veteran for $5 says, beware of the ignorant confirmation bias when they say if someone is hated, it must be because they have to be a bad person, hence why they are attacked. Yeah. It's kind of like when I'm always doubtful of any kind of like absolute claim, right? Anytime it's this is a bad person. Okay, well, maybe, but like why? What's the evidence, right? Any kind of extraordinary claim, I think always you need some sort of really obvious evidence. But sometimes it's just it's almost like, the hatred is the meme,
Yeah, I saw something on Twitter. I believe Blair White tweeted it, and it said, they don't kill you because you're a Nazi. They call you a Nazi so they can kill you.
So they can kill you.
And that was so profoundly put. I was like, holy shit, that is literally how it feels. I'm conservative, but I don't have nearly the type of reach or draw like Charlie Kirk or any of the big name ones. So I'm less worried about like my personal security in that regard, as opposed to someone like Charlie Kirk, Megyn Kelly, Erica Kirk, all of those people. Of course, I would worry about their physical safety. But yeah, it feels like they're calling us a Nazi so that they can justify burning our homes, looting our stores, shooting us, whatever it may be, because, well, they're a Nazi. So of course that's how I handled it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's just that's the cycle though. It's slander, isolation, dehumanization, and extermination.
Yeah.
Watcher, what's your kind of what's on your kind of
that's
ledger for the
on
weekend?
My mind. That's what's on my mind. That's what I'm thinking about. That's what I'm watching. I think leftist violence is going to escalate and escalate quickly.
I sadly agree with that. I wish it wasn't, but I feel like that's very, very
and
true.
I think specifically they're going to go after targets outside. Some of them will be in areas like Dallas because the target is the kind of thing that we have clustered in big cities, but they will also go for targets outside of big cities. You know,
like that wedding at that country club.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, that's the kind of place you go to get away from these problems.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's well said, Watcher. All right, that's all we have for today, guys. Thank you for being here. I want to say thank you to Molly and Danielle. You guys were awesome. Definitely, I would be interested in having you guys back if you're up for it, maybe next month or something. So we'll have to talk about that. And if you guys haven't done it already, go check out Is Spotify the best place to find your? Is that the best
Spotify,
place to find
Amazon Music, and iHeart carry us currently.
Okay, so right here we got it. Sub to Danielle and Molly here at. Let's see, I'm not going to read that link, but that's where you can find it.
Yes. Thank you.
So go give them a sub and let them know that the council sent you. Ladies, thank you so much.
We are marked as mature content, just so you know, because I use the F word every time I sneeze.
Well, you know,
it's true.
It can't be helped, right? I mean, you know. All right. So, ladies, thank you. Watcher, as always, appreciate your support. Chat, you guys are awesome, as always. Thank you. For those of you who financially contributed to the show, you guys are awesome. Thank you for what you do. If you haven't done it already, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications. Share the link with your friends. Let them know that you're getting some good stuff over here on Council on Future Conflicts. We will be back on Monday, same time, same channel. And as always, stay safe.